Hello guys and girls, this is Wager Detective back at you. This is June 18th, 2026. Be sure to follow Wager Detective on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. We're going to get into this Mets-Phillies cap. I want to let all my fans out there know that I appreciate you and I love all you guys. Let's get into this cap. The Mets versus the Phillies. All right, we look at the Mets this year. We look at what they've done their last 10. They're 5-5 in their last 10 games, 15-23 on the road. They're 7-12 in one-run games. And the only bright spot is they are 8-8 in their division out of those stats there. So 5-5 their last 10, not bad. 15-23 on the road, 7-12 in one-run games, and 8-8 versus the NL East. Now, if we look at what they've done against the Phillies, they are 4-6 in their last 10 versus Philadelphia, 7 over, 3 under. They're scoring 4.9 runs per game to 5.6 for the Phillies. That comes out to a 10.5 runs per game average. And if we look at what the Mets have done at Philadelphia, they are only 3-8 in their last 11 at Philadelphia, scoring 4.18 runs per game to 5.81 runs per game. That's a 46-64 run disadvantage for them, run score disadvantage. And between their wins and losses, their last 11 at Philly, they're minus 1.63 runs per game average between their wins and losses. And the total is coming in at 9.99 runs per game average. So when they play Philly, they score. And I think you'll see runs in this game tonight. The Mets are plus 104. The Phillies are minus 122. And the over-under is set at 9.5. And minus 108 to the over and minus 112 to the under. So some things to keep in mind there. So road night games this year, not that good, like we said for the Mets. They got swept at the Dodgers, 8-14 in road night games this year, but they're scoring 4.09. And against the Phillies, last 10, they're scoring 4.9. Last 11 at Philly, they're scoring 4.18. So they can score runs. They got guys in the lineup that can score. Guys like Bichette, Soto can change the game in one swing of the bat. And they got some speed over there too, so it should be pretty interesting. Now, if we look at what they've done their last 9, not bad. The Mets are 4-5 in their last 9 games, minus 12 run differential there. And in their last 9 games, they played some pretty good competition: St. Louis, Atlanta, and Cincinnati. So coming into this game, they're going to be ready to go. So 4-5 the Mets are in their last 9, 4 over, 5 under in those games. They are only scoring 3.88 runs per game to 5.22 for their opponents. That comes out to a 35-47 run differential disadvantage for the Mets over their last 9. And the average score in the last 9 Mets games is coming out to 9.1 runs per game average. And the Mets opponents in their last 9 have scored 5+ 5 times. So pitching has been a little bit of a problem. Now, the situational angle for this game, it's going to be road series to road series with no rest. And this year, the Mets are 2-2 in that situation, scoring 2.5 runs per game to 3 runs per game for their opponent. Comes out to 5.5 runs per game average. So all 4 of those games did go under. So situational angle, situational split, road to road series with no rest in between. In that first game of the next series, they are 2-2, scoring 2.5 runs a game to 3 runs per game for their opponent. So something to keep in mind there. Now, on the mound, we're going to have Sean Manaea. All right, Sean Manaea, he's been mainly relief this year. He's been a relief pitcher in every outing this year except his last outing, where he had his first start of the season, where he lost to the Braves. The score was 1-3 in that game. So between his relief and his starts this year, he's got 49 innings pitched, and he's got a 4.78 ERA, a 1.35 WHIP, and he's given up 1.10 home runs per 9. Now, if we date back to this season and then last season, he is 1-5 in his last 6 road starts, or his team is. The Mets are 1-5 in his last 6 road starts. He's got a 7.04 ERA, a 1.39 WHIP, and he's giving up 1.96 home runs per 9 in his last 6 road starts with 23 innings pitched, 25 hits, 18 earned runs, 5 home runs, and 7 walks. So he looked good in his start versus the Braves in his last outing, but the last 6 road starts where Manaea started, the Mets are 1-5 in that span. So we look at what he's done against the Phillies, and in his last 5 starts versus the Phillies, the Mets are 2-3. 2 over and 3 under in those games. They are giving him run support in his last 5 versus the Phillies. They're scoring 4.2 runs per game, but the Phillies are scoring 5.8. So last 5 starts versus the Phillies, 2 over, 3 under in those games. Mets scoring 4.2, Phillies scoring 5.8. And that comes out to, in those 5 games versus the Phillies, that's a 5.47 ERA, a 1.06 whip, and 2.05 home runs per 9. So not really something that's, in the last 5 outings versus the Phillies, he has given up 6 home runs. So that's going to be the question mark here. Does he keep the ball in the park? Because I think if he does, if he can keep the ball in the park, obviously it's going to give the Mets more of a chance to win. With Nola on the mound, and we get into this, you know, I do think this game, little spoiler alert, I do think this game is trending over from what I'm saying. But if we look at that side of the Mets cap before we get into the Phillies, not bad. 5-5 last 10, 4-5 in their last 9. Against the Phillies, last 10 overall, and the last 11 at Philadelphia, they're averaging at least 4 runs per game. Over their last 9, the scoring has slowed up. They're only scoring 3.88 runs per game, and they're giving up 5.22 to their opponents. And Manaea, the big question mark here. He's been a relief guy all year, just filling in, inning here, inning there. And, you know, he's got 49 innings pitched, but he only had 1 start, and that was the last game against the Braves where he looked pretty good, right? Now, can he follow that up? Manaea, not a bad pitcher, man. I like him, decent, left-hander. Keep those left-handed bats somewhat in check, but the Phillies are loaded over there in Philly, even with guys that hit from the left side of the plate. Very dangerous. Now, we get to the Phillies part of the cap. In home night games this year, they're 13-11. They were swept by the Braves in one of those series. 13-11, the Phillies are in home night games, 11 over, 13 under. They're scoring 4.63 runs per game to 4.92 for their opponents. Comes out to 9.54 runs per game average. The Phillies and their opponents in home night games this year combined, the Phillies' opponents have scored 2 runs or less 8 times, and the Phillies have scored 2 runs or less 8 times. So out of 24 games, a third of those between the Phillies and their opponents have scored 2 runs or less 8 times. So, last 9 for the Phillies, they're 5-4. 4 over, 5 under, scoring 4.66 runs per game to 4.55 for their opponents. Comes out to 9.22 runs per game average. And even though they're scoring 4.66 runs per game over their last 9, they were shut out twice in that split. So they're scoring right now. They're playing pretty good. In their last 9 games, they are +1 in the run differential department. And like we said, the Mets are -12 in their last 9 in the run differential. But the Mets have played some tough competition, like we said, over the last 9. St. Louis, Atlanta, and Cincinnati. All teams that are vying for playoff positions. No slouches there. Now, for the Phillies, the home series to home series with no rest this year, they are 2-2. But this is interesting. All 4 games went over the 9.5 that's set tonight. And in those 4 games this year, where they go from home series to home series with no rest in that first game, they're scoring 7.5 runs per game, but their opponents are scoring 8.75 runs per game. That's a 30 to 35 runs scored between them and their opponents in those 4 games. They won 8-6 against the White Sox. They lost 7-9 against the Athletics. They beat the Cubs 13-7, and then they lost 2-13 against Washington. So they're either scoring or they're getting scored on. I like that for the over in a game like this. Now, we're going to have Aaron Nola on the mound, and the Phillies are 4-1 in his last 5 starts. In Nola's last 5 starts, he has a 5.76 ERA, a 1.32 whip, and he's giving up 1.44 home runs per 9 in his last 5 outings. The wins came against Milwaukee, the White Sox, and 2 wins against the Padres. The one loss coming versus Cincinnati, the Cincinnati Reds. So Nola, last 5 outings, the Phillies are 4-1, but he has a 5.76 ERA, a 1.32 whip, and he's given up 1.44 home runs per 9 in his last 5 outings. And that comes with 25 innings pitched. He's given up 4 home runs. So 16 earned 4 home runs and 16 earned runs in 25 innings pitched in his last 5 outings. So obviously the Phillies, in that situation, they're hitting for him, right? And Phillies are doing good in their last 9. They're scoring 4.66 in their last 9. They're doing good at home, scoring 4.63 runs per game in their 24 home run games. But it seems that they give up runs. They're giving up runs. Now, if you look at this, the Mets are going to look to try to gain ground here, right? They want to gain ground against the Phillies. And again, they're 4-6 last 10 versus Philadelphia, but they're, like I said, going back to that Mets, they're 3-8 in their last 11 at Philadelphia, but they're still, in those last 11 at Philly, they are scoring 4.18. So they do score, they're scoring, maybe not in their last 9, but again, tough competition like they'll see tonight, so they're in rhythm. Now, the Phillies are 8-6 this year when Nola starts, 7 over, 7 under in those games. In Nola's 14 game starts this year, he has a 5.86 ERA, a 1.47 WHIP, and he's giving up 1.66 home runs per 9 in his 14 starts this year. Now, if we look at what Nola's done this year at home, the Phillies are 3-3 when Nola starts at home this year, 4 over and 2 under. In Nola's 6 home starts this year, a 6.20 ERA, a 1.62 WHIP, and he's giving up 3.10 home runs per 9 in his 6 starts at home this year. Guys, and he's coming off, listen, he came off his last outing was a win. I believe it was either the White Sox or the Brewers where they won 9. The Phillies scratched out a win where they won 9-8. So, you know, you look at this lineup, you got guys, Bichette, one of the better hitters in baseball, Soto, same thing. Outside of that, you wonder, can these other guys, Simeon, can they chip in? The Phillies lineup is definitely loaded with left-handed bats. You got Schwarber, Harper, Marsh, and Stott. So going against the left-hander Minaya could be pretty interesting, right? In this game. Now, Nola's last 5 games versus the Mets, the Phillies are 2-3, 1 over and 4 under. In his last 5 starts versus the Mets, he has a 3.98 ERA, a 1.04 WHIP, but giving up 1.42 home runs per 9 in those last 5. So the home runs are following him around. I expect a home run tonight. I would not be surprised if Soto gets one. I would not be surprised if Bichette gets one. Maybe even Marcus Simeon. So that leads me to think that the over could be in play in this game. Now, Nola is going to be on 4 days rest in this game, and the Phillies are 2-2 in that situation. The 2 losses coming against San Francisco and Cincinnati, and the 2 wins coming against Colorado and the White Sox. So, in Nola starts this year on 4 days rest, again, the Phillies are 2-2. But on 4 days rest, Nola has a 6.14 ERA, a 1.45 WHIP, and only 0.82 home runs per 9 on 4 days rest this year. I expect that to kind of go up today against this Mets team that not necessarily known for home runs, but let's get into both these teams and what they're doing as far as batting average, home runs, RBIs, and stolen bases. Batting average, you got Marsh, number 5 in baseball, batting .323, and Harper coming in at number 85, batting .251. On the Mets side, you got Juan Soto, number 11 in baseball, batting .297, and you got Bo Bichette coming in at number 78, batting .254. So both these teams with 2 guys in the top 90 in Major League Baseball in batting average. And again, Soto and Bichette for the Mets against Marsh and Harper for the Phillies. Now, home runs, the Phillies, they own this one. You got Schwarber, number 1 in baseball with 25 home runs. Harper, number 23 with 15. You got Marsh and Bohm both coming in at number 84 with 9 home runs apiece. On the Mets side, you got Soto at number 23 in baseball with 15 home runs, and you got Marcus Simeon at number 84 with 9 home runs. So both teams got guys that could get the ball out of the park. But if you look at what they're facing today in Minaya, I got to believe that there's some advantage for Minaya in that situation because it's a lefty going against lefty. And he did look good in his last outing. And he does have, when he starts against the Phillies, like we said, in his last 5, he's got some wins there. He's got some wins. The Mets have wins there when he does start against the Phillies. Again, 2-3 the Mets are in his last 5 starts versus the Phillies. So something definitely to keep in mind there for that as we venture on. Now, if we look at RBIs, the Phillies got a bunch of guys there as well. Schwarber, number 27 in baseball with 43 RBIs. Harper, number 41 with 40 RBIs. And then you got Bohm, Marsh, and Stott, 39, 35, and 35 RBIs. But again, I would caution to say all those guys at the top of the list, Marsh, Stott, Bohm, and Harper, and Schwarber, they're all going to be all left-handers facing a left-hander here. So I throw a little caution to that. Now, if you look at RBIs for the Mets, they got 2 guys. They got Bo Bichette, number 31 in baseball with 42 RBIs, and Soto, number 63 in baseball with 36. So they got those 2 guys. Bichette, Simeon, and Soto are going to have to do some damage, have to get some things done there. Now, if we look at stolen bases, the Phillies got 4 guys in the top 65 in baseball. Turner, number 10 in baseball with 15 stolen bases. Stott with 13, Crawford with 9, and Marsh with 7. And on the Mets side, they got Benj coming in at number 37 in baseball with 10 stolen bases. Ewing with 7, which you see him in that lineup tonight, batting 5th. And then you got Simeon with 6. So both teams got guys that can steal bases. But if we're looking at this from a standpoint of who do you like in this game, I got to think, believe it or not, with everything that's said, I got to believe the Mets are worth the value here. Small value, you're not getting major value. And I believe I saw the line drop to another number. It was plus 104. It dropped a couple cents to like plus 102 last time I checked. But if you look at all the metrics that we're looking at, and I just think Nola, I just feel, I'm not saying, listen, they're coming off of a loss, right? They lost their last game yesterday against the Marlins. They've just been getting hit around. Phillies pitching's been getting hit around. Now, the Phillies, if they do get to the bullpen, they got top 3 guy in baseball with saves, and that is Durantula, Johan Duran, which is, he's great. And then if you look at the Mets, they got the number 16 guy in baseball, Devin Williams, with 10 saves. So if I'm to look at this, I really do believe that the Mets are going to get it done here. I just really do, just based upon the fact that Manaea is a left-hander. Maybe one of these guys get to Manaea, depends on who you think it'll be. But something just tells me that I think the Mets are going to find a way to get to Nola here with all those numbers we talked about on 4 days rest, what he's doing on the whole year. I think the Mets are the play here. I could see a home run going out by either Soto, Bichette, or both. And on the Philly side, you could see a home run go out. Look for a guy like a dark horse here, Edmundo Sosa, to maybe get one out, or even JT Realmuto from the right side of the plate, or even Alec Bohm. So, but Wager Detective is going to call the New York Mets to win here. I think they get it done. I think they're going to be a little bit more hungry here. I like a team that, even though the Phillies are going from home series to home series, you kind of want to like a team like that more. But I think Manaea is going to be the guy that is going to pitch better here. And I think the Mets are going to get their runs, and I think they're going to do enough just to win this game. Probably close, maybe 5-4, 6-5, 6-4. I think both teams are going to probably get to 4 runs, but I think the Mets, when the smoke settles, I think they're going to be in. I think the Phillies will be chasing them in this game, and that's the call here. Wager Detective calling the New York Mets on this game here, June 18th, 2026, calling the Mets to win the game. And if I'm looking at an over-under here, I mean, it just seems kind of easy to go with the over. The only thing that cautions me is that the Mets, they don't have the most potent lineup. They got guys in the lineup that could score. It's a tough one. I wouldn't even make a call on that. If I had to, I would have to lean the over in this game. But my stronger play on this game is the New York Mets to beat the Phillies tonight. This is Wager Detective. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Set alerts on Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube. Guys, all your support out there, I really appreciate it. I love all my fans out there, present and future ones. And Wager Detective is going to talk to you soon, reporting live from Atlantic City. I'll talk to you later.